There is an ambiguity in the term actively disbelieves. One potential reading of it is someone who is active in their disbelief re a particular religion, perhaps taking part in lobbying, debate or even answering questions on Quora. Another is someone who has gone beyond the default atheist position of not believing in a god to being convinced that a particular god does not exist. There have been a few attempts to coin words to subdivide atheists into those who are convinced that there is no god, and those who consider the possibility of there being a god to be unproven. Richard Dawkins came up with a 7-point scale with 7 being something like I believe there is no god, and himself at a 6. I have heard people use the terms strong and weak atheism, which I find unhelpful, not least because I am not yet aware of any convincing evidence for the existence of a god, is intellectually a far stronger position than the supposed strong atheist position of I believe there are no gods. But also because the real issue that I keep coming across with atheists is that there are particular concepts of God that they have looked into sufficiently to dismiss as logically impossible or disproven, and other concepts of God that they haven't looked into to the same depth. In other words, in my experience the typical atheist believes that the gods of certain religions are false, but as a matter of intellectual honesty, accepts that there are a plethora of other religions out there whose gods they haven't looked into sufficiently to consider them proven to be false. Which religions they consider to be false will vary according to their upbringing, but often includes any religion they were brought up in or that is a dominant religion where they live. I'm not sure if we need a word for someone who publicly advocates atheism, or for someone who is convinced that there is no God. We might need a word for those who think that a religion or religion in general does more harm than good. I thought at one point that antitheist might work for people who hold the Christopher Hitchens position, that religion poisons everything, but I have also seen antitheist used for the concept that someone believes that there is no God. How false religion is and how negative it is can be seen as two very different scales. So my advice for those trying to understand and perhaps empathize with an atheist, rather than focus on whether that atheist considers your religion to be disproven or merely something they have not yet been convinced by, take it as read that they don't believe in your religion any more than you would expect anyone of a different religion to believe in your God. A more interesting angle is to discuss what if any aspects of religion they find positive or negative. Your clarification edit seems to have muddied the waters even more. Active belief is an odd term. Why qualify the word belief in such a way? Belief represents our current position on various claims. It is fluid. I am sure you can recall something you once believed but now reject. We mostly arrive at positions of belief due to multiple influencing factors, rather than a single epiphany. The belief itself is passive and out of our control. We either believe a proposition or we do not. There is no neutral position because that would be disbelief by default. We do not choose to believe. If we choose to act in specific ways that we would not normally behave, based on a belief, is that what you mean by active? An atheist is simply someone who rejects theistic claims due to insufficient evidence in support of the conclusion. There is no belief involved unless you determine that rejecting someone else's belief necessarily becomes a belief, which, in my opinion, is a stretch too far in support of an argument. You call them an atheist. That's because the difference between actively not watching TV and passively not watching TV is too subtle to be worthwhile. You may be asking about the difference between an atheist and an agnostic. Simply put, an atheist doesn't believe any deities exist while an agnostic does not believe but also doesn't rule out the possibility. Actively and passively are terms that are difficult to apply here. For example, I am an active agnostic in the sense of being open and outspoken. But the vast majority of both atheists and agnostics will never lift a finger to even advertise their views, let alone convince anyone not to believe in their deity of choice. I wouldn't do the latter either. Does that make me passive? One wonders. I guess there's no answering this question until the op clarifies what exactly they mean by actively in this context.